And joining me now is the #2 Senate Democrat and chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dick Durbin of Illinois. Senator Durbin, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks, Chuck.
You'll be overseeing this confirmation process for whoever the president ends up selecting. And before we get into some specific names, I want to get into a couple of numbers here. Amy Coney Barrett, 27 days from nomination to confirmation. Sonia Sotomayor, 66 days from nomination to confirmation. I know you decried the speed of what happened with Amy Coney Barrett, and there's a lot of things that you want to decry on that. What should we expect timeline-wise? Closer to Sonia Sotomayor or closer to Amy Coney Barrett?
Well, a great deal depends on the nominee. If the person has been before the committee seeking approval for a circuit court, then the committee knows quite a bit about that person, and that can be taken into consideration. If there are no new developments for someone who's been before the committee in the previous year or two, it makes a real difference. I can just say this. It's going to be fair, it's going to be deliberate, and we're going to be timely about it, too. This is a lifetime appointment to the highest court in the land. We should take it seriously.
Look, I am obviously going to try to pin you down one more time on timing. Easter recess, mid-April. Is that a fair target at this point to get it done before you guys take off before, or do you think probably just after?
By the Amy Coney Barrett test, yes, it is. And so we'll see. We'll see what develops. And a great deal, maybe all of it, depends on the nominee and the background of the nominee.
You said something just interesting to me just now. You said it depends if they've been before a committee before. Ketanji Brown Jackson, obviously on the circuit, on the D.C. circuit, she has been before this committee. This Senate has received 53 votes. Based on what you know about her, do you think she should be the front runner for this post?
I sure don't want to speculate on that. The White House made it clear when they told me about the Breyer vacancy that they had not decided, the president had not made the decision, and I want to respect that. I think suggesting there's a front runner or this person is now moving ahead, it's unfair to all the nominees. This is in the hands of the president, as it should be.
What kind of conversations have you had with the ranking member, Lindsey Graham, about what kind of process this is going to be? Or are relations just sort of, that's just not how it works anymore?
Well, I would say that the ranking member is now the senator from Iowa.
Oh, sorry, my apologies there. That's right.
Yeah. I called him the next day. We had a brief conversation about it. And I have a good working relationship with Senator Grassley. We really trust one another. I like him, and I hope he likes me as much. And I think we're going to do our best to serve our country in this capacity. He's been through it. I've been through it for 7 of the current Supreme Court justices. I would suggest he might even be in for a longer term and has really faced them all. So we do have experience on the subject.
You know, it's interesting here. Clarence Thomas is about to become the only member of the current Supreme Court who was nominated by a president of one party and confirmed by a Senate controlled by the other party. You think we'll see that again in our lifetime?
Well, and think back about Stephen Breyer. Here's a man who worked as the chief assistant to Ted Kennedy, and when his vote came up in the Senate, he was approved 87-9. It's an indication of the good old days when there was much more bipartisanship. But my goal is to make sure that we have a deliberate, timely hearing, but also to reach out to the Republican side and see if they can join us in making it a bipartisan nomination. I think that speaks well of the court, and it speaks well of the Senate if we can achieve it.
A lot of progressive activists were pretty loud about trying to convince Justice Breyer to retire while Democrats were in charge of the Senate and the White House. What do you make of that campaign? Did you find it appropriate?
I stayed away from it. You know, I respect Justice Breyer, and he has an amazing record of 27 years on the court. And I didn't feel that external pressure was really helpful at all. He had to make this decision. It is an important and timely decision in his life as to the right moment. And I didn't want to push him, and I didn't.
I want to ask about one other aspect to these Supreme Court nominees that has become sort of now the norm. It's something Jonathan Chait wrote about in New York Magazine because it's always about age now. Neither party would choose a nominee over the age of 60, even though the most accomplished judges, by definition, have been honing their craft for a long time. The absurd actuarial logic of lifetime appointments incentivizes both parties to find the youngest possible nominee who can plausibly be sold to the public as having cleared the qualification bar. It is sort of a conundrum here that we do rush these folks onto the judiciary if we think, both parties do it, if we think they have the qualifications to get on the Supreme Court. Are we choosing age too quickly these days?
It's a factor. I'm not going to mislead you in the selection of judges at every level. I have a lot of my friends here in Chicago who are attorneys in their 60s who would like to cap off their career by being a federal judge. It doesn't really make sense. When you consider how little time they're likely to serve before they reach senior status or leave completely, we do look for younger candidates, younger by Supreme Court and federal court standards. But it's done on both sides. I don't think there's any surprise that both of the Republicans and Democrats would like some longevity in the service.
I want to turn to the issue of Ukraine. Both you and my other Republican guests are chair of the Ukrainian Senate caucus, if you will. Senators Portman and yourself both have large Ukrainian populations in your states. And I'm curious of what you thought of what President Zelensky said on Friday. He seemed to wonder aloud why Russia hasn't been punished yet. That he's a little concerned that we are waiting, that it looks like we are waiting until after he encroaches on the border of Ukraine, not before. What would you say to him?
Well, I would just say to President Zelensky, we need to accept one basic premise. Any decision about the future of Ukraine will be made by Ukraine. It won't be made in Moscow or in Washington, in the European Union or in Belarus. It's their future and their fate and their decision as far as that is concerned. I have listened closely to what President Zelensky has said, and he reminds us time and again that there could be a way out of this short of military action. And I hope there is, but it's his decision to make. If he decides that the future membership, if there's to be one in NATO for Ukraine, and the question of Russian occupation of Ukraine are two things to put on the table, I think we may move toward a solution to this, and I hope we do soon.
That's interesting. You think he may accept some limitations on his relationship with NATO?
I don't want to presume a thing, nothing. It's his decision entirely. But as I listen to the diplomacy back and forth, it seems to me that the Russians want to try to delay any Ukraine involvement in NATO, and Ukraine, of course, wants the Russians out. I'm not talking just about the troops at the border, but those that invaded their country 7 or 8 years ago, and currently the little green men, or however they characterize them, continue the warfare and killing.
That's a pretty optimistic note you're sounding here. You really think this is we're going to have a diplomatic exit here?
Well, we better be prepared for the worst, and I think the president is stiffening our resolve to face that if we have to, with serious sanctions and our NATO forces doing everything they can to protect the Baltics and Poland and other countries. But, I do like the fact that the diplomacy continues, and that, to me, is an encouraging sign.
Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, the #2 in the Senate, head of the Judiciary Committee. We'll be seeing a lot of you as these hearings get started. Thanks for coming on and sharing your perspective with us, sir.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.